Okay, so we're going to start this class in a very relaxed child's pose. So if you're quite happy with your own child's pose version, just get yourself into that now. Otherwise, I would either recommend a knees together child's pose, where you start to just sink the body forward, bending at the hips, flowing over those knees. Maybe the head comes to the ground, the forehead, and the hand goes back behind you. If this isn't comfy for you, or you're pregnant like me and you have a belly in the way, you can do an extended version of a child's pose. So your big toes are together, your knees are apart, you're walking your body down, and maybe you have a bolster here or a cushion to just rest the hands and the head on, or you can just take it further till the head is placed on the floor like that. If you don't feel comfy in your bum, maybe the bum's not able to come to the heels, you can pop a cushion there for support. If the heels and the ankles and the feet aren't able to flatten onto the floor, maybe there's some tension in the ankle and it's kind of more like this, you can roll up a blanket and place it under the ankle there. So whatever way you need to support yourself in this pose, do get yourself into your most comfortable version of this. And in this class, we're going to be exploring the earth and the water characteristic again in this kapha season. So it's quite a gentle class. We're going to have some deeply grounding postures, bringing it back to that earth, that stability, that muscle, that fat tissue. Everything's just kind of grounded and kind of relaxed and still. And then we're going to also bring in some moving, gentle, flowing elements. So not like the air, but more like the water. So gentle, easy, flowing movements. The lymphatic system in the body, the water in the body, just gently moving, nourishing the body, moving the blood around the body, making up a lot of the vital organs of the body, playing a massive role in transformation of nutrients, of passing nutrients on to different organs. Gentle and flowing and consistent. So not kind of random, just a gentle flowing movement. And we might explore this in our daily life as well at this point in time, as we come from the kind of deeper winter and slowly, very slowly transition into slightly warmer or changing weather of the spring. So during this time, we can practice that in our yoga by looking at transitions between poses. So focusing on gentleness and ease. We don't want to go from the deep depth of winter, closeness, kind of insularness, to like suddenly springing out. That's really challenging for the body to do, and that's when we get things like hay fever, and we get those reactions where we've got a lot of kapha in the system, and then the fire suddenly comes in and irritates it, and then we're getting a lot of mucus coming up, and we're getting a lot of irritation, maybe rashes, skin rashes, things like that. We want this to be an easeful, gentle transition from a more kind of sedentary, relaxed state, slowly and gently moving into something a little bit more dynamic. And in this class, we're going to concentrate a lot on the transitions for that reason. So even just from the beginning, just now, I want you to really, as you're sitting there in your child's pose, just really focus on a middle ground, finding that ease. So maybe bringing yourself now into a feeling of tension for a few moments in the body. So what's your most tense version of child's pose? Maybe taking this now. Maybe your shoulders are a little bit scrunched, maybe your arms are very rigid, and feel how unsustainable that is. And how kind of painful. And now melting into an extremely relaxed version. So nothing's engaged at all. Everything's completely restful. So deep in the winter time, this is how the body can be. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with bringing a bit of tension either. But experience this in the body. How does that feel? And now we're going to move into the middle ground between those. So see if you can find a slight engagement. So slight engagement, which is causing the back to straighten slightly, a slight engagement of the core, gentle engagement, sort of rolling up and back into the shoulders, a gentle engagement and awareness of the hands and the arms. So there's no tension there. It's a complete sustainable pose, but it's not deeply, deeply relaxed. We're still slightly engaged. So that's what we're looking for in the class today. Finding that middle ground, starting to ease that transition between complete sort of slowness and rest and movement and dynamism. So just taking some deep breaths here. These final few minutes in child's pose, just really deeply engaging with the breath, finding that easeful position with a bit of engagement. Bringing the breath right through the whole body. The breath is what eases every transition, so we're going to really utilize that in this class. Every time there's oxygen, every time there's breath flowing through the body, every single thing is easier. Whenever there's tension, if we bring in the breath, things become gentler and easier. So just really, really bringing the breath into your practice now. Bringing it deep into the lungs, transferring it into the stomach. We often chest breathe through our day. So this is a real chance to bring the belly into this practice. Bring the breath deep into the belly. Maybe even into the root chakra area. Right down into the body. A few more breaths here. And start keeping with a gentle and even flow of breath. Starting to move the hands over to the right hand side. And at this point, if you are in that knees together child's pose, you want to move the knees apart and bring the hands forward. So you're in an extended version. And then just gently and slowly moving the hands and the body over to the right hand side. And then we're sinking again over that right knee this time. So folding over the right knee if you're pregnant or any other reason that your belly's getting in the way at this point, your body's feeling uncomfortable, just bringing your body slightly more into the center away from that knee. So you've got lots of room. But otherwise, bending deeply over that knee, the bum stays on the heels in this position. And maybe you clasp the left wrist with the right hand and just slightly drag the arm over to the right side. Taking some deep breaths here, just starting to open into that side body. Just releasing through the hips, releasing through the armpit and the shoulder, releasing through the chest, the rib cage. And then slowly picking the body up with the hands, moving towards the left-hand side, and again just folding down the left-hand side. Maybe clasping that right wrist with the left hand and just giving it a little bit more of a tug over to that left hand side. Deep breaths here, not forgetting the breath as we open into that shoulder, as we open into that side torso. Nice, gentle and steady breathing, that consistency of water. Gentle flow. A few more deep breaths here. And then eventually picking up the body again, moving the hands over to the centre. Now keep the hands just in front of us while still the body's still picked up. Inhaling here, deep inhale, and on the exhale, bringing the right hand along the left arm, along the chest and out towards the back of the room into a gentle twist. A few breaths here. And then scooping the right hand, the right arm, under the left arm, gently twisting towards the other direction, and maybe the head, the side of the head, so the right ear comes towards or onto the floor. Maybe staying here or bringing the left arm up and folding it over the back, just opening into the shoulder a little bit more. Nice easeful movements. Again, thinking about not introducing too much tension or too much deep relaxation at this point. So finding that point of engagement, but where the body's not hurting at all. Deep breaths here. Taking the left hand back off the back, using it to push the body up. This time, deep breath in, hands are in front. And on the exhale, just stroking along the right hand with the left hand, up and back through the chest, and finding the back of the room in that gentle twist. Deep breaths here. Opening deeply up into that chest. And then inhaling and starting to exhale, we're threading the left arm under the right arm, maybe eventually finding the ground with the left ear into this sort of twisting the opposite way. Finding those gentle transitions, maybe staying here or bringing the right arm up and over the back. Folding it gently here. Again, just noticing what's happening with the shoulders. Is there any tension? Are they creeping up to the ear? Can we relax them back slightly? Are we completely resting? Have we lost all engagement? Can we just engage slightly? Engaging in the hips, engaging in the shoulders slightly. Just having that gentle sort of movement from the chest, slight rotation towards the right hand side. Few more deep breaths here. And then moving gently and back, just gliding back into that central position. And we're going to take just a few motions here, sitting up on the pelvis and then moving the hands behind the body, just supporting the body. Inhaling and just pushing the belly out, pushing the chest out, the shoulders come back behind us, shoulder blades are moving towards each other, really opening that chest. Inhaling here. Just breathing into that chest area. Inhaling. And then picking the body up, fingertips. Just caress the floor slightly. And then hands move up and over the body as we exhale down into that child's pose. And then we're going to just flow that movement just a few times. So as we start to inhale, unfurling the body, moving the hands behind us, coming into that kind of almost backwards cow position, pushing the body out, pushing the chest up and out, shoulder blades coming together, deep inhales here. Few deep breaths. Inhale, and then we glide forwards, hands come up and over the head as we fold down on the exhale into that child's pose. As we start to inhale, moving the hands up and back behind the body, opening up into the chest. Deep inhale here. And then as we find our exhale, onto the fingertips and then rotating the hands up and over the body back into that child's pose. And then finally just coming back into a central position. Just coming down onto the bum. So bringing the legs in front of us. Coming into Balanasana, butterfly pose. So either taking the feet together, and we can take them out like a big diamond here, or we can take them in, whichever is most comfortable. So remember that point between total comfort and ease and tension. So we're finding that kind of middle point of just gentle engagement. So wherever is best for you to feel that. Maybe popping some bolsters, some cushions under the knees at the sides if that's supportive for you, and if there's any kind of tension in the knees, because we do want to protect this area. Otherwise, just starting to slowly ground the bum cheeks, maybe pulling the skin away from the bum, finding the ground, straightening up through the spine, rolling the shoulders back. Deep inhale here as we lengthen through the whole body. And on the exhale, we might stay here, especially if we're pregnant, or we might slowly fold ourselves forward slightly. There's a few different varieties of things you can do here. So maybe you open the toes like a book. This can be nice. It can be a nice pose because then your elbows can gently pressure onto the lower legs, just giving those hips just a slightly deeper release. We might even take the hands under the legs and fold in that way, and that way the body might come a little bit closer to the ground, but we don't want to hunch into the body. We're only bending from the hips, so we're just moving forwards with the body, like so. Just taking some really nice deep breaths here, wherever you've got to that's comfortable for you. Starting to release from the hips. Lots of emotions, lots of blockages can be held in this area. Slowly moving the body back up to a central position. And I'll pop ourselves up into a tabletop at this point. And maybe you just take a few movements of your own in this tabletop. So really kind of connect with where your body's at and what your body needs today. You might move the bum from side to side. You might follow it with the face, taking these little side movements. You might take some cat-cows. So on the inhale, the chest moving up, the belly moving down, the tailbone moving up. On the exhale, scooping everything in, including the neck. Just taking a few of those in your own time, maybe. Just leaving the space open to what you feel is appropriate, because we're really trying to start forming that connection with our body, forming that intuition of what our body actually needs to get us through these transitions. Maybe we're moving in a sort of circular manner around, bringing the breath into this. You're just moving in whatever way is necessary for you in this pose. Just a few more moments in your own time. Lovely. Really, really nice. And then coming back to a central neutral spine, taking the fingers wide out in front of us, really having a nice stable base as we bring the right leg out to one side and start to straighten this leg. If you've got your socks on, you probably want to take them off at this point so you don't slip around. And taking that foot out to the right hand side and straightening the leg if you can, and just grounding into that back knee. Maybe if the knee finds it a little bit too much weight, the body coming up onto it, putting a blanket under the knee, or even folding the mat so you've got a bit more support under that knee. And coming up into this gate pose, inhaling hands to the sky. As we exhale, moving the right hand, just sliding it down the right leg, and the left hand comes towards the left side of the room. The arm comes up and over the left ear. Shoulders relax away from the ears slightly, just into this lovely sideward fold, opening into that rib cage, into that shoulder. Sideways movement is very rare in our daily life, so something I really like to encourage, especially this time of year when we're trying to remove that stagnation from the chest area. And really good for the spine, especially when I've been sitting in an office chair all day, maybe. A few more breaths here. Then inhaling back into this just gentle pose here. So again, just noticing the ease from transition to transition, no like kind of harsh movements at all. And then just starting to tilt this the back foot round, so the left foot comes round towards the left side of the mat, and the right foot starts to point towards the right as we come into a low lunge with the back foot, the back knee on the floor, so the left knee on the floor. And we might move the foot, the right foot to the side slightly, so we're in that kind of lizard position. We're not moving the knee sort of over the ankle too much. If you need a bit more of a stretch in this position, moving that back knee further back slightly. So just sitting into your low lunge here, starting to just find a bit of that middle ground again. So coming up to your edge and then kind of moving back just a few steps from that edge. So there shouldn't be any pain or serious tension, but it shouldn't be really, really easy and restful either. So just finding that engagement. When we're engaged, we're stable, and when we're stable, we can move through transitions much more easily. Bringing that foot slightly more to the center, so in between the two hands, going to come up with the body. Inhaling, hands come up and over the head, cactusing the hands on the exhale, and then folding over the front leg. We're now straightening that front leg. Toes might come up to the ceiling at this point. Just taking some really deep breaths here because this is quite an intense pose for the back of the leg. So starting to open into this area here. Deep breaths. Bending that knee again, moving back into that lunge. Inhaling, hands to the sky. And on the exhale, we're going to twist round. So the left arm moves towards the front of the mat and the right arm moves behind us. And I'll just turn around so you can see me better. And when we're in this twist, the right arm is just going to brush behind us and the left arm hand is going to stroke along the outer right thigh. So in this gentle twist. Taking a few breaths here. We're then going to start to flow this movement. So on the inhale, hands come up to the sky, we face forward. On an exhale, moving round towards the right hand side, scooping that right hand behind us. Inhaling forwards, exhaling into that twist. Inhaling forwards, exhaling into that twist. Inhaling forwards. And then hands come down to the ground. Now, going to make an interesting transition here. So maybe watch before you do it. Starting to move that left foot towards the right side of the mat. Scooping that round until it comes just under the pelvis. And then we're going to move our body back over that foot until we're sitting in this position. So see if you can gently do that on your own and see where you get to. Just notice the ease and the gentleness in the transition. So no big movements, no kind of pushing your bum down suddenly, just really gently flowing into this new pose. Lovely. And when you've arrived here, inhaling, hands overhead, and exhaling, folding over that right leg. So a nice deep kind of, we can feel some stretch along the left hand side of the body. We can feel a little bit of stretch maybe on this leg, slightly on the back of the leg. Just taking some really nice deep breaths as we fold over this leg. Really nice, really lovely, everyone. And then, as we connect to the earth in this position, we start to ground the body. We might take the leg with the right hand, wherever it's getting to on that leg, and start to stroke along the arm with the left hand, starting to move the chest into a more open position. The left hand comes up to the ceiling and then starts to fold over the left ear. So we're in more of a side fold now. Both our hands are towards the right foot, so moving towards the right foot, but this time our chest is nice and open. And this is quite a nice deep pose. So if you find any tension here, or if your arm's getting tired, you can pop the hand behind the head in this position. You can even pop the elbow of the right hand just above the right knee, and then use the right hand to just rest the head on. So you might be in this position. Whatever's going to make you come to that middle point, that point of just slight engagement, but no tension. If you're just sinking very, very easily into this pose, maybe you engage a little bit more. A few more breaths here. This is a really lovely releasing pose. And then inhaling to come out of this pose. Bringing the hands towards the front of the mat, rotating onto that knee. Bring the right foot back in, and the knee comes onto the ground, back into that tabletop position. Again, just maybe shaking out the body, doing any movements you're enjoying before in this position. And then taking the left foot out this time towards the left side of the room, or the front of the mat if you're in the middle of the mat like me. Bringing the torso up, maybe again putting some support under the knee here. Hands come up into the ceiling, inhale, and as we exhale, I don't know what that noise is. As we exhale, the left hand flows along the left leg, and the right hand comes towards the right side of the room, arm up and over the right ear, into that gentle side stretch. So starting to warm up this side, opening up into the chest. Again, finding that middle ground between tension and total relaxation. Just relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. Coming back up with the body, moving the left toes forward, and then shuffling the back knee round into a low lunge position. And just finding a bit of stability here, maybe moving the left foot towards the left hand side so you can deepen this pose slightly. Maybe moving the back knee further back if it's too easy right now, or further forward if you're actually finding that this is too much tension for you. And taking some deep tummy breaths. Just really opening into those hips, that nice release, that emotional release. That root chakra area, that area associated with the earth and the water elements. And now we just shuffle the foot into the center slightly again. Inhaling, moving the torso up, the arms into the air, and on the exhale, cactusing the arms behind us, and then slowly folding over that front leg as we straighten it. We might point the toes up to the sky, or we might keep the foot on the floor if that's more comfy. And just taking a few breaths here, just folding over that leg. Again, just noticing that edge and maybe moving a couple of steps behind it. Should just feel a gentle stretch along the back of this leg. Shouldn't feel any pain. And eventually just bending into that front knee again. Inhaling, hands to the sky. And this time we're exhaling, coming into that twist. So the left hand's flowing behind the body, the right hand's coming and caressing the outer side of the left thigh. We might gaze back towards the back hand or just keep the gaze relaxed, whatever feels best. A few breaths here before we take a bit more flow into that movement. Again, just finding ease between each transition. So inhaling, using the breath, hands to the sky, exhaling, moving towards that twist again. Inhaling, hands to the sky, exhaling, twisting back. Inhaling, hands to the sky, exhaling, twisting back. Inhaling, hands to the sky, and exhaling, hands come to the ground, the foot's between the hands. And we're going to take that interesting transition just in your own time, where you're starting to move the right foot towards the left side of the mat. We're moving the torso and the pelvis back over that foot until the bum meets the floor behind that foot. And we come into this position here. So just traveling there in your own time. Again, just a really gentle transition as we move from the winter very gradually as the weather changes into the spring, or the kind of wind sometimes we get in between in that transition. Sometimes the weather becomes a little bit chaotic for a while. Might get some showers, some storms. And that's because transition is always a difficult time. So the more that we can ease into it, the better. Taking the hands up, inhale, and exhaling, folding over that straight leg. Just wherever you get to. And again, just finding that middle ground, that point of engagement, where we're feeling a nice stretch, but it's not too much. Deep breaths here. Just really using this class as a reminder of how we can transition in a balanced and gentle way. We don't have to have harshness or too much discipline even. We don't have to go suddenly into some kind of crazy January or February diet or preparing the body for the summer or anything like that. We just want to have a gentle, easeful time, slowly releasing the kapha from the system, slowly bringing a little bit more movement, being gentle and kind to ourselves during this time, and you always using the breath. Now we can take wherever is comfortable on the left leg with the left arm, and then stroking along the left arm with the right hand, up through the chest, back, and then up and over the right ear with that right arm into that more of a side stretch. And remember the variations here, so putting the right hand behind the head, maybe putting the left hand behind the head and resting on this arm. So whatever we need to do to make this posture the right level of engagement for us. So it's not total relaxation, it's not tension. It's somewhere gentle in between. Deep breaths here. Sorry about my builders, if you can hear them. I never know what time they're going to arrive in the day, but they're being very loud outside. Hopefully it's not disturbing you too much. And if it is, maybe just taking that on is another point of transition. Sometimes we just have to deal with difficult, annoying things and just move through them. Gently bringing the body back into the centre, to the central position, and starting to rotate towards the side of the room with the bent leg, and up onto this knee, shuffling the knees together back into that tabletop position. And again, just maybe taking a little shake out here, a little move around here, going with your intuition on what any movements you need in this position. Then tucking the toes behind you, spaying the fingers out in front of you. Again, a very gentle transition into a downward dog. So feet are about hip distance apart, so are hands. Pushing up, pushing into the toes. Slowly, with bent legs, moving slightly above the floor. Maybe coming back down again, just gently. Maybe trying this a few times, starting to bring strength and engagement into the core. Moving up onto the toes, knees come off the floor. And gently popping the knees down again, so not pushing them down suddenly. One more time doing this, up and above the floor. Gently placing them down again. And then this time moving the knees up and slightly back as we move the hips up and back into that kind of downward dog shape. If we struggle to find length in the spine and we're kind of a bit more hunched around at this point, we want to bend the knees because then we can retain that length in the spine. If you find it fine and the spine feels nice and long, you can push up and back with the hips and up and back with the heels and straighten the legs slightly. But you're looking for a nice long line between the middle fingers and the pelvis. Taking some deep breaths here, slightly tucking the chin. And now playing with that kind of difference in between tension and relaxation. There's the option now, maybe, only if this is within your practice already, to come down onto your forearms in this downward dog position and the hands clasped together into a dolphin. So hips are still pushing up and back. And this can be really, really hard, so you might take the knees down and have a little rest in between goes. You're clasping hands together, forearms are sturdy on the floor, tucking the toes again, pushing up and back with the hips. Maybe walking the toes a little bit forward, introducing a little bit more strength into those arms, a bit more tension. So finding a point of something that feels maybe uncomfortable, but no pain. Make sure you're not going into a painful place. And then coming back onto the knees and just relaxing down again, maybe even into a child's pose. So just trying that transition a few times, experiencing the tension of the dolphin pose comparative to the relaxation of the child's pose. Just a couple of times trying that. Really nice strengthening place for the arms as well. And any kind of inverted position, very, very good for the kapha dosha as we bring things up and out of the body through the lymphatic system. So we start to bring a bit of draining, we start to engage the sinuses, get things moving in that area. And then eventually coming back into the downward dog, which should kind of feel like the space in between those two. So the space in between the dolphin, which is very, very difficult, and the child's pose, which is much more relaxed. So that downward dog position, really, really good. And then slowly, one at a time, just walking the hands back to the back of the mat. And then you're just having a nice forward fold. So playing with this forward fold, maybe clasping the elbows and gently swaying from side to side. Maybe just staying in that forward fold and finding some stillness. So again, just finding that perfect position for you in between water and earth. So maybe you want to flow with that position a bit more. Maybe you want to stabilize and stay grounded and find some stillness there. Just bringing that into your daily life, you know, we can notice, do I need to move right now? Do I want to flow with this? Is this something I feel comfortable with? Is this something I can be flexible around, this situation? Or is this something where actually I need to put a boundary in place? I need to assert myself. I need to look after my own needs. I need to stay still. I need to, you know, stand my ground. So playing between those two things, quite an interesting exploration. And then from this pose, just really like one vertebra at a time, just gently rolling up from the spine until we find the standing position. And now finding a balance here. So I'm going to try a tree pose. Let's see what time we're on. I'm going to try a tree pose. We might run over slightly today, so I apologise if we do that. Grounding into that left foot. And to start with, just noticing where the weight is in that left foot as we start to take the right foot off the floor, or maybe we just come onto the right tiptoe. And we've already played with opening the hips slightly today, so these movements should feel a little bit more comfortable for you now. Maybe placing the palm, the sole of the foot, the right foot, on the ankle of the left foot, and just making this little triangle position with the legs. Maybe just staying here and just trying to keep the hips slightly more central, so not leaning too far to the left. Maybe bring the hands to heart center. If you feel comfortable here, maybe moving the foot slightly further up the leg, maybe onto the ankle. Toppling over is fine. That is always expected and always good, because it means you're just testing your boundaries. Maybe finding a drishti, one focal point to focus your eyes on. Maybe moving the foot a little bit further up. Never placing the foot directly on the knee, but maybe just under it or just above it. We might shuffle the foot into the pelvis kind of area. Let it balance here. Just finding this tree pose, just your variation of it, and taking some nice deep breaths here. Now we might take two different variations here. So either, if it feels comfortable for you, placing the ankle of the right foot just above the knee of the left leg, flexing that foot, and then sitting back into a version of chair. So the bum sits back. The bum sits back slightly. Might lose our balance here. Just finding it again gently. Moving a bit more of the weight into the heel. Sitting back into this version of chair. If this feels too much for us or it doesn't feel right in our body, we can just take a standard chair, so feet together. We're just sitting back into that chair position, straightening up through the spine and taking a bit more weight into the heels. So whichever position we'll be in, just be there for a couple of breaths. And then taking that, you might use a wall to help you, taking that leg out from that position, that right leg, and then moving it back into a high lunge for a moment. And then again, just noticing that transition that you just made. Maybe even trying it again. If you felt like you suddenly went back, that's not what we're looking for here. We're looking for gentleness. So maybe even reversing that and just exploring that one more time. So as we come back, taking very slow and gentle gliding movement as the foot kind of caresses the ground into that lunge. And then we're going to do the same as we start to move the heel around into a warrior two. So the foot is parallel with the back of the mat. So real gentleness in this movement, this transition. Keeping the left foot facing forward into that nice warrior two. The hips are just sideways. The front knee is not traveling at all over the ankle. Just finding this nice version of a warrior two. And we're going to find a flowing movement here. So we're in a warrior two. And we're going to bring that front toe round. So we've got a parallel position with that foot as well. So we're in a wide-legged position. Going to open the arms, look up to the sky, cactus the arms behind us on the exhale. Move the hands down towards the ground as we fold forwards from the hips. Place the left hand on the ground, the right hand flows along the left arm up through the chest and then comes up to the sky. We might have a block under this hand on the ground as well if we can't reach the floor. Few breaths here, just as we start to explore some elements of the flow we're going to create. And then as we move the hand down again on the exhale, we're going to flow it over towards the left hand side. We're going to move that foot back so it's pointing towards the front of the mat. We're going to slightly move the heel of the back foot back slightly, so the toes are pointing inward just slightly. And we're going to move up so we're in a warrior one. So from this warrior one, we're going to flow into that wide leg position. So we started in a warrior two, so that was a bit easier because we could just move this foot, this front foot. But this time we're going to move both feet slightly. So maybe just practice that movement of the feet first before we start this. So the front toe is coming 90 degrees to face forward. And the back heel is coming a little bit less than 90 degrees to just face the back of the room. So we end up in this parallel position. So maybe you just practice flowing between those two foot positions. And we're also flowing between two hip positions. So in a warrior one, our hips are facing forward a little bit more. And in this wide-legged pose, our hips are facing sideways. We just play with that a few times. And then when you're ready, we're inhaling, hands to the sky. As we exhale, we're cactusing the arms while we do that transition, that gentle transition into that wide-legged fold. We're folding forward again, placing the left hand on the floor, inhaling as we look up and bring the right hand up to the sky. As we exhale, sweeping forward, moving back into that warrior one foot position, moving the hands into the air on the inhale, exhaling, cactusing the arms up round as we move the feet round to the wide-legged position, folding forward, Left hand comes to the floor, right hand comes up to the sky on inhale, exhale, sweeping the hands round. Foot position changes into warrior one footing, hands come to the sky, exhaling, that's on the inhale, exhaling, cactusing the arms round as we move into the wide-legged position. Left hand comes to the floor, inhaling, that twist, exhaling, moving towards warrior one, inhaling, hands to the sky, exhaling, cactusing down. That was a really beautiful, gentle flow. Lovely, really nicely done. And now going to have an option of moving quickly into a warrior three. So grounding into that left foot, maybe starting to just balance on it, one little movement at a time. And we're keeping the hips facing forward, so we might hold them at this point to make sure they stay in the same position. Playing with balance as we bring the right leg back. And it might just come here, we might just play with that pose. We might be slightly bending the front leg so we don't hyperextend. Or we might come right back, might take the hands to heart center, might take the hands behind us or in front of us, whatever feels best or interesting to you. Just a few breaths here as we find that tension again, that real deep engagement. And then swinging the right leg forward to the front of the mat. And we're just going to repeat that again. So we're going to find the tree pose on the other side. So in your own time, just grounding down into the right foot, placing the left sole of the foot on the right ankle, and then just slowly moving this up the leg if you want to, or just keeping it where it is. Starting to find that tree pose of your choice on that other side. A few deep breaths here. Starting to find that moment of tension, but seeing if you can step back a few and find that moment in between the relaxation and the tension. Even in a balancing, challenging position, is it possible to find that middle ground where maybe there's a tiny bend in the leg, the standing leg? Maybe the gaze is just helping just control the movement. The shoulders are still relaxed. Just a few more breaths here. Whoop. Maybe falling out of it and then coming back in again. Just noticing, yeah, those points of change and challenge. And then either coming into a normal chair pose or placing this left ankle above the right knee and sitting back into this figure four variation of the chair pose, putting a little bit more weight into the heel. Few breaths here, just engaging the core. Again, seeing if even in this quite tense position, can you find that middle ground? And then eventually stepping back with that left foot, starting out into just a high lunge position. Just settling there for a moment. And then gently spinning the back heel round, finding a warrior two. And we're gonna, again, just practice this transition from the warrior two. Maybe we clasp the hips so we know that they're in the right place. From the warrior two into the wide leg forward fold. So moving that front heel to the right side of the mat. So the feet are parallel with each other. Folding from the hips. This time the right hand's on the floor. And on the inhale, the left hand strokes along the right arm, up the chest, and finds that twisted position. Taking a few breaths here. And then floating over towards the right side, the right foot again, as we spin that heel round and come back into that kind of warrior two position. But this time we're going to twist that back heel slightly round and find our warrior one. So the hips are also twisting round to the front of the mat. And we're going to slowly find that flow. So again, if you need to do a bit of practice with those heels, so moving both heels so the feet are parallel with each other in a wide-legged position, and then back to that warrior one position. So just practicing that a few times, and the hips are moving with them. So the hips are to the side and then the front, and really gentle transitions here. We're just working on this really gentle transition. And then when we find our warrior one, taking the hands to the sky on the inhale, exhaling, catching the hands down as we move the feet into that wide leg position. Now folding from the hips, right hand stays on the floor, left hand comes up to the ceiling. On the inhale, exhaling, hands come towards the right foot as we move the feet round into the warrior one position. Hands come up and over the head as we exhale, catching the hands down next to the body. Feet transition to the wide-legged pose. Right hand comes to the floor. And you can just flow through this in your own time if you want. Left hand comes to the sky on the inhale. Exhale, move back into that warrior one with your feet. Inhaling, hands to the sky. Exhaling, catching the arms down. Back to the wide-legged position. Right hand hits the floor or the block. Left hand comes to the sky on inhale, exhaling, hands move to the right side, back to the warrior one position. One more time, inhaling up here, exhaling, catching the arms, wide-legged forward fold. Left hand comes up to the sky, moving back round to warrior one, and then hands to the sky, catching down, and you're just staying here. It's really lovely. And then just moving into that optional warrior three at this point. So all the weight comes into the right foot and we just play with that. Hips are facing forward. We might really come out of balance, but this is, again, this gentleness here, just offering that gentleness into quite a challenging pose can be really helpful. And keep staying with the breath. So we're practicing these challenging poses so we can keep coming back to the breath and letting the breath guide us through it, and still finding gentleness in that pose, still finding that middle ground as we come into our version of a warrior three. And you might just practice coming into this pose just a couple of times, maybe flexing the back foot, maybe pointing the toes, just leaving up to you here, whatever feels good, keeping the hips facing forward, maybe taking the hands out if you don't feel that this is a challenge enough. Just staying a few more breaths in that position before you gently bring the foot down. Then we're going to come into a bit more of a restful pose now. Toes come out and heels point in. The legs are slightly widened. We slowly bend down to a malasana squat. Maybe we take the hands to the floor first and then we move ourselves down, and maybe the heels come off the floor, whatever's easiest for you. Hands come to heart center. Just settle here for a moment. Deep breaths. Hands come to the ground. Knees come to the ground. We're in that sort of child's pose position, sitting back on the ankles. And now we're going to take a hero pose. So this can be quite a challenging one, depending on the natural rotation of your hips. So for me, I find this easy only because my hips naturally have an internal rotation. So I find crossed legs positions more difficult. But if you find crossed legs position more easy, you probably have more of an ease with the external rotation. So this might be more challenging for you, but also maybe quite a good pose to try. So essentially, we're sitting in a a kneeling position, and we're going to bring our feet to the sides so our bum can come down to the ground. And that might be really a lot for you, and you might want to put a bolster or a blanket or a block under the bum to make this a bit easier. And we might just sit there and just take some deep breaths. It's just a nice thing to do when we've been moving between these hip positions over and over again. We've done quite a lot of external rotation. We're just internally rotating now on our way to the ground. If that feels okay for you, and it feels quite easy, and again here, if you have tense ankles and they're sort of more like that, you can pop something between the ankle and the floor. If this feels okay for you, you might start to take yourself down with the back of the body. So you might creep the forearms down and just stay in this position, or even lie down onto your back. Or you might just stay seated. So just taking a few breaths in your chosen position there. With some nice deep breaths there. Really lovely. And eventually sitting back on your bum and bringing the feet in front of you, we're going to move to a fish pose. So we're going to bring the forearms onto the ground behind us. So we've got this nice curve in our spine. We might stay there. That's quite a nice position for opening the chest, just relieving some of that kapha. Or we might slowly slide the elbows a little bit forward and place the top of the head on the ground. And this is a kind of fish pose. So we've got, again, a little bit of tension here, but a lot of engagement. We shouldn't be totally relaxing, but we shouldn't be hurting anywhere. And we should still be able to just experience the pose and feel good and feel an opening in the chest. We might stay here, we might take the feet off the floor, challenge our core just slightly there, and again just playing with that moment of tension comparative to when we totally relax down again. Taking just a few breaths here and then coming to lie down. Lovely. And as we lie down, just taking any extra postures we might want to take before we finish the class. So I would suggest maybe a little rotation of the knees, so we can just really find a grounding in our lower back. We might take the knees gently to one side and the left arm to the other side into a gentle twist for a few breaths. We might move, so we're just twisting into the lower body because we've done a lot of twisting into the upper body. Might move into the other side, taking the right arm outstretched towards the right, the left knee is in a sort of right angle position over to the left, or even onto a bolster or a blanket. If they don't meet the ground, you can bring the ground to meet them. And then bringing eventually back to a central position, potentially just taking a child's pose, a happy baby here. So taking the outer sides of their feet with the hands and just rocking from side to side, just opening up into the hips, gentle rocking motion. Just taking any last little stretches that you need. Lovely. Really nice. And just slowly settling into our Shavasana. Whether that be popping your socks on, getting a blanket ready, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Maybe having a blanket folded behind your lower back might be good. Whatever you feel is necessary for you in this position. We really lovely job today, transitioning between those gentle floor positions to some more challenging balancing poses. Moving back to the earth again, but always, you know, playing with ease, playing with tension and finding that middle ground. So coming into Shavasana now, just taking some really nice, gentle, deep breaths. Filling the body again, and then on the exhale, just letting everything collapse. Now we're taking total rest. So we're coming in from that point of engagement into total restfulness, back into that deep winter season. But also, Shavasana providing a nice transition from my yoga practice today to the rest of our day. So always needing, you know, we've spent quite a lot of time engaging in the present moment, connecting with the body, finding those middle grounds between tension and relaxation. So taking the Shavasana is the transition between this mindful kind of place back to our busy day. And that's why we really need that. We really need that Shavasana, that time to just take on board everything that's happened in the last hour or so. Just take it on board in the body, take it on board in the mind. Just really like suck it all up, suck it all in. Really just enjoying that time with absolute ease. No engagement whatsoever, just enjoying that restfulness and that ease as we just sink every part of ourselves into the ground. Again, just taking this time to have this deep appreciation of the earth below us. And, you know, noting just what are the transitions in our daily lives and what do we need from them? What do we need from those transitions to make them easier? Maybe when we're waking up, there might be a transition to be had. Maybe we feel really grumpy and angry in the morning because there's such a sudden change in our state from total restfulness to being alive and dynamic. Maybe there's something we can put in place there to ease that transition. Maybe we can start to think about just taking a bit of stillness before getting properly out of bed. Maybe we've got our phone next to our bed and that causes a lot of disruption to our mind as soon as we wake up. Maybe we leave that downstairs and we have a bit of time without our phone, a bit of restfulness, just to be in our bed, to be by ourselves, to have some silence and peace. Maybe there's a transition to be had between our work day and being at home in the evening. If you're working from home, especially, because we need that change of scene in our mind. We need to take the mind away from the work life and back into our home life. Maybe we close off our office and we move away from that place. Maybe we go for a gentle walk. Maybe we do some yoga. Maybe we listen to some music or we make some music. We do something creative or something that inspires us, or maybe we just read a bit of a book. Whatever that makes us that transition easier from tension to relaxation of the evening. What's that middle ground and what can we do for ourselves in that time? Just slowing everything down now. And then I'm going to leave you in Shavasana today. So Just stay in Shavasana. You're just staying in Shavasana, just resting there, and just finding your own way out in your own time. This is up to you. And just taking notice of what transition you need today to transition from your Shavasana back into your day again. And thank you so much for joining me today. And it's lovely to see you, and take lots of care as we move into this new season with gentleness.